Report Uncut. Here we are. It's Friday, July 14th, 2017. And we have gold currently trading at $1,232.10. Silver is trading at $16.12. Let's get right into some of the economic factors that will be playing a part into the price of precious metals. Really, what we're facing is the death of cash, the death of our currency, if you will. Now, despite the fact that the US dollar, the Federal Reserve note, it has printing on it that this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and yet we still see that Visa is now offering incentives to businesses, and if you're a small business, it probably sounds very enticing, of $10,000 to update their credit card system. There's a catch. The only catch is that they no longer are allowed to use cash for transactions. Now, we had already covered recently just the increased costs in taking debit cards or credit cards, but we really need to look at the motivation behind this because it really paints an ugly picture. Now, they did call it their cashless project, their goal towards cashlessness, but it's also when you have a country whose credit is tapped out. It's not the credit, because they can keep manipulating those numbers. Remember, we discussed a while back how they were going in and they were going to revalue everyone's credit scores, how they were going to write off student loans, how they were going to do anything to get people in these houses. When you look out and you look at Canada right now, and you look at what's going on in Canada, they're in some very serious trouble. Just the sheer volume of debt. And they've not been afraid of this housing bubble. They've been stoking this housing bubble, especially in the Canadian government. They've been attempting to, and that's just the way our economy works. It's a debt-based economy, and it's madness. What happens is, and it can't go up forever, what they do, they just continuously try to get everyone to borrow into debt. This is like Visa's main goal would be to get half of our country to have credit cards. More than half of our country already has credit cards. It says that the average American is going to die with more than $60,000 in debt for every man, woman, and child in America. Now, let me ask you, if you're some of my listeners who don't have any debt, just imagine how much some people actually have for that to be a true metric. It's absolutely insane what we're doing here. The real problem we face is that people are out of money. And if the machine needs to be fed, the machine needs more meat for the grinder, needs more bodies to come and sign for these loans, or else what? What happens? Well, it's called a bubble. What happens in Canada if they can't find anyone else to take more of these prices? They also manipulate construction numbers. They just say that there's a housing boom, there's a frenzy, they get money moving and circulating, and they're just trying to make money off of the top in all of these sectors. Housing, student loans, cars, they've dipped into everything. Ever since the financial crisis, they have gone into every kind of sector they can because their massive money is made not only in issuing these debts, not only in the extra money for nothing. Being a lender, even if people aren't paying you back, is money for nothing. That's how these major banks have become so large. And that's why they never lose, especially when you have the federal government going back some of their loans. Like the student loans, they're backing the banks, they're backing deposits. They can go and take this money and go and push it around and say that it still actually exists in their depositor's account. What we face is a consumer that is tapped out, a consumer that is no longer applying for their loans. So where are we? Well, that's a very dangerous place to be. And so Visa's attempt, and this is why there is an attempt worldwide to eliminate cash and the use of cash within our countries. Now, if you had followed some of the documentation from the IMF, you will see that what took place in India, also some moves that took place within the United States, are almost word for word from their blueprint on how to remove cash from your society without an uprise from the people. I would suggest going and looking up that video. It's very detailed about this subject. But they are following a plan that has been written by the central bank of central banks to eliminate cash. And what happens when you eliminate cash? Well, people become less conscientious over how they're saving, over what they have. That's the whole reason for this 2% inflation rate, is to continuously have people need to borrow, to raise the prices of everything. And so we continuously are locked into this debt cycle. When the debt stops, when people stop taking loans, the bubble breaks. That's the big secret they don't want to let you know on. When we're watching crashing loans right now, when we're watching delinquency rates on credit cards rise right now, every time this happens, we are on the edge of a massive financial crisis. And on top of that, they still make money because they sell these bad loans. They sell these non-performing loans, and they package them into securities, and they sell them amongst each other. They still make money. And when everything goes south, the central bank, they print massive amounts of US dollars, and they go and they buy all these bad assets. Why? Because then those banks are too big to fail. Newsflash, when these systematically important financial institutions in the Dodd-Frank law begin to fail or look like they are likely to fail, guess what? Bail in. That's right. So these major banks that are playing this game where there's no one else left to be able to pay or take out any kind of loans, when this bubble begins to break, bail in time. That's the reason they wrote the law. That's the reason we're here again. And they want to confuse your mind and to tell you it was for your benefit. Let me let you in on a little secret. Anything that's happened in the past 30 years in the legal system in this country is not beneficial to you or to the citizens of this country. That's just not the case. And we need to wake up to what's going on. Because ultimately, this will cause a lot of danger for a lot of people. Because in essence, you think that things are okay right now. People think crashing prices are good right now. But your employer doesn't think crashing prices are good. Your employer doesn't think the stock market is good. That's great. You're not in the stock market. You're wise. You're taking care of yourself. But you know what? That stream of income that we're depending on may not be there. It may not be there because of the severity of this bubble popping. They know that. That's why Visa is willing to pay $10,000 to get restaurants and businesses to stop using cash and to encourage people taking out Visa cards. Ultimately, the machine needs fed. At any cost, it is worth it to eliminate cash from their system. And that is the reason for this push. That is where we are at as a nation and why we must resist it. All right, thank you guys for joining us here at the Silver Report Uncut. If you like the content, be sure to subscribe, like the videos, share the videos, get the word out. I thank you so much for stopping by. As always, stay safe.